Fans are shocked, and social media is in a complete state of chaos right now after rumors surfaced overnight that Mona Scott was closing Love and IP Hop for a brand new secret project that no one saw coming. Insiders claim that the reality TV queen herself was working on a new show behind the scenes. And if the rumors are accurate, it's much more explosive than anything we've ever seen on Love and Hip Hop. But RCs say the move wasn't without major drama. According to reports, tensions between Mona and some of the show's biggest stars, such as Rashida Kirk, Frost Mendices, and Yondan D. Smith, became so intense that in a lout after a heated argument with Mona, Rashida and Mona reportedly clashed. Over creative control, Kirk stormed off set and Lucy allegedly called the entire production a trap. Meanwhile, Yondan D is said to be devastated, saying she was taken by surprise and left in tears. Fans are demanding answers, and cast members are leaving cryptic messages online, which is fueling even more speculation about what exactly this secret project is and whether Mona really killed Love and Hip Hopus to replace it with something else. Stay tuned because this drama is just getting started. Fans dismissed it as just another unfounded rumor and internet hoax that would go away in a few hours. But by the weekend, something had changed. The cast members were unusually quiet behind the scenes, and the crew stopped posting their typical on-set selfies. Then, the bombshell arrived. Mona Scott was seen leaving a private studio in Atlanta with a small group of producers, none of whom were involved with Love and Hip Hop. Insiders began talking, and what they said sent shockwaves through the entire fan base. Mona wasn't just working on something new, though. She was allegedly replacing Love and IP Hop with a brand new show that sources were already halfway through production, and the worst part was that the original cast was unaware. Rashida was among the first to notice something was wrong. She had been contacting producers for weeks to find out when filming would resume, but all she received were evasive answers and postponed schedules. When the first crack came, the producer, Allegedly, told Kirk off the record that Mona had been spotted scouting new talent and locations that had nothing to do with Love and Hip Hop. Kirk then relayed the information to Rashida, and the two started to piece together the clues that had been missed. Menzies and Yondan D were also beginning to feel the shift at the same time. They had flown in from New York expecting to begin filming UT, were informed that the studio was undergoing renovations, which made no sense to them given that they had filmed there just weeks earlier without any problems. Frustrated, Yandi called one of the longtime producers she was close with, but she received no text messages or callbacks, and it seemed as though the entire production had disappeared overnight. Tensions between her family and her business finally erupted during an impromptu meeting that Mom Scott held in Atlanta. Only a few cast members were invited, which raised eyebrows right away. However, despite the short notice, Kirk, Rashida, Menek, and Yondani all managed to show up. The atmosphere in the room was icy from the moment Mona arrived with her new production team, all dressed in black. And she allegedly started talking about the future of television and how audiences wanted something less manufactured and more genuine. So when Rashida interrupted her, she reportedly got up and asked, "So what are we fake now?" The room went silent as Mona attempted to defuse the situation, but Perk wouldn't have it. He accused Mona of using them for years and then throwing them away like old footage. Jan Dandy was clearly upset, and Menzi leaned back in his chair, with his arms crossed in a quiet rage. Then came the Hop was permanently on hiatus. The cast didn't buy into her new project, Real Roots, which she said would focus on a new generation of Black influencers and entrepreneurs. They knew that less drama still meant intense conflict, but it wouldn't include them. Yandandi broke down in tears at the table, saying she had given up too much and opened up too much of her personal life to be thrown away without even a warning. Mona remained silent and let Yandi speak, but her expression never changed what happened next, turning the private meeting into a full-scale war. Kirk stood up, slammed his fist on the table, and accused Mona of stabbing them in the back. He said, "You made your empire off our pain, and now that we aren't useful, you're just done with us." Mona didn't reply, but according to reports, one of her new producers intervened and told Kirk to watch his tone. At that point, they got into a heated argument and security had to step in. Rashida pulled Kirk away and Yandandi grabbed Menzi's arm in an attempt to prevent physical harm. But it was obvious the damage was fans were confused and then incensed, flooding Mona Scott's page with comments. This wasn't just a cast change or a business decision, it was personal betrayal. After the meeting ended in chaos, everyone went their separate ways. But the drama didn't stop there. On Instagram, Yuan Dandi posted a black screen with the caption, "Royalty has an expiration date," Rashida tweeted. "Funny how success makes some folks forget who helped build it." In the meantime, rumors were spreading like wildfire. Some claimed that Rashida and Yandandi were planning their own reality series in retaliation, while others said that Mendez was preparing a Talal interview to expose everything that went down behind closed doors. Kirk reportedly began leaking behind-the-scenes footage from previous seasons, hinting at what he called the real story that never aired. Fans were demanding answers to the "what was this new show?" and "why were the original cast members left out in the cold?" Even as the backlash grew, Mona remained silent, didn't respond to the cast, didn't issue a statement, and didn't even post on accounts. Instead, she moved forward with her new project quietly and confidently, as if none of the noise mattered. This wasn't just the end of the show. It was the collapse of a reality TV dynasty, and at the center of it all stood Mama Scott. The woman who built an empire from raw emotion and real-life chaos, now accused of tearing it all down without hesitation. It mattered, but the noise didn't go away. In fact, it was getting louder. Industry insiders started leaking more information. That Mona had pitched the new show months ago and got funding from a major streaming platform, which explained the secrecy she had to keep under wraps until the deal was finalized. Now that everything was set in stone, she was ready to launch, and she didn't care who got hurt in the process. Word on the street was that the new cast was already filming. In Atlanta and Houston, ND, that several well-known actors were attached to the pilot. Only made matters worse for the original cast, who had been blindsided and replaced. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more intense, another twist appeared. The voice note, which was purportedly recorded during a heated argument between Mona and one of the network executives, was leaked by someone close to the production. In the clip, a woman who is thought to be Mona is heard saying, "I don't owe them anything. I made them stars. They should be thanking me." Fans of Moana, who had previously praised her as a visionary, now called her out for her betrayal and arrogance. Hashtags like #justice4 and #bringback and Andy began trending on the internet, leaving everyone curious about what the cast would do next. This is where the next chapter of the story begins. The public's loyalty started to shift as Mona Scott moved forward with her new show. And the original Love and Hip Hop cast was suddenly seen not just as forgotten celebrities, but as victims of betrayal. Fans were shocked by what they heard and couldn't believe it. Mona Scott, the woman credited with launching so many careers, spoke with what sounded like pure disregard for the very people who helped build her empire. These people had aired their deepest traumas, family drama, and personal battles, all for the sake of realism and ratings. Reached out to some of the other cast members who had also been iced out. Word began to circulate that Kirk and Rashida were secretly planning a response, not just social media posts this time, but a full-on expose. The couple had preserved a vault of uncut footage from years of filming that could drastically alter public opinion. Rashida reportedly told one of her friends, "Mona wants, we've got receipts she doesn't want the world to see," which caused things to take a darker turn. Meanwhile, Menzi and Dandy weren't sitting idle either. Menzi's more reserved one was the first to suggest going public, saying they think we need that platform we built our names on already. Now it's time to use it for our truth. She was devastated by how easily they had been discarded, but she had always supported the franchise. Even during scandals and when fans turned against her for things she had said in confessionals or edited, scenes she had defended the process and defended Mona. The couple then started contacting media outlets as the original cast suspiciously quiet. And some even unfollowed Mona on social media. The idea was simple. If Mona was going to move on without them, they would make sure the world knew exactly what happened before she did the betrayal, the manipulation, and the fake promises of loyalty and inclusion. They wanted people to how they had built their lives around filming schedules, relied on that income, and sacrificed their privacy only to be ghosted. It didn't take long for rumors to begin. According to some insiders, even those cast members were unaware of the cancellation until they saw the news online. It seems that only a few cast members from the final season were offered spots on the new show, and everyone else had been left out. The resentment began to spread like wildfire. One anonymous source wrote, "We were promised renewal. Nah, this ain't right." But it was a live stream from Rashida that really poured gasoline on the fire. She went live late at night without makeup or filters. Some folks smile in your face and then delete your whole career like it was just a storyline, she said, with tears in her eyes. "We gave everything to that show, everything. Our marriages are for what?" Kirk could be heard off camera trying to calm her down, but she wasn't stopping. You're probably wondering if it's true. But it's true that they killed Love and Hip Hop Hand. They didn't even have the decency to tell us first. Fans were outraged, shocked, and for more than 10 years, these individuals followed their journeys, learning through live streams and rumors that the show was ending. Even worse, they watched as their favorite cast members experienced an emotional collapse in real time. Some viewers even began searching through old interviews and reunion footage for clues that the fallout had been simmering for years. The cast members' hints of exhaustion, creative differences, and feeling taken advantage of were all present, but they hadn't put the pieces together until now. Then, in a twist, Yandandi shared a mysterious video on her Instagram stories displaying a blurred-out contract with a caption, "They thought we didn't have options." Within hours, blogs began to pick up the story headlines like Yandandi, plotting revenge project, and Kirk and Rashida set to expose Mona, while the cast remained vague. The buzz was undeniable. The story had reached the mainstream, and Mona could no longer ignore it. Instead of responding directly, Mona allegedly took a more calculated step and made a quiet phone call to one of the rival networks. Fans immediately started speculating about whether she was joining a rival network, starting a reality show, or collaborating with Rashida and Kirk. According to someone familiar with the situation, Mona was in a panic behind the scenes as the backlash had gotten worse than anticipated. Streaming platforms were becoming anxious. The new show sponsors were asking questions. And worst of all, someone had leaked early footage from the Real Roots pilot, and fans weren't impressed. The reaction was lukewarm at best, without the raw drama and iconic personalities from Love and Hip Hop. The new show lacked punch. It looked polished but empty. As a result, Mona found herself in a tight spot, endangering her next major project. Back on the cast side, another informal meeting was taking place. This time without Mona. Men and Rashida Yandandi met in a private lounge in Atlanta to discuss their next steps. They debated whether to fully expose Mona or take the high road. Kirk wanted to go scorched earth because he felt they owed it to the fans. Some of them had serious dirt, decade-old secrets, never-before-seen footage, and receipts that could paint Mona in a very different light. A producer, or this whole thing could collapse. "We don't need to burn it down," she said. "We need to build something better they can't take from us." Menks nodded in agreement. "It's time, more editing, no more being puppets." The room went silent for a moment, and then something changed for the first time since the news broke. She still had friendships with some people in production, and Andy, who was always strategic, suggested a different angle. As they plotted, the situation outside the room grew more intense by the minute. Fans were demanding answers, networks were making calls, and bloggers were publishing story after story, each more explosive than the last. The world was watching, and the fallout was far from over. And just when everyone thought things might calm down, another bombshell dropped. This time, it came directly from inside the new production, The Bomb Show. Discarded but motivated, they didn't need Mona's permission to be relevant. They just needed each other. Came in the form of an anonymous message sent to gossip blogs, some of which had close ties to reality TV insiders. The message included a screenshot of a group chat between members of the new cast of Real Roots. One of the new cast members wrote, "This isn't what I signed up for. It's boring. They want us to fake fights, but it's not landing. It feels like we're knockoff versions of the old crew." Another said, "I miss the real love and hip-hop energy. This doesn't feel real." Within minutes, the screenshot went viral, and fans started attacking the new show before it even aired. Another former Love and IP Hopcast member, Scrappy, entered the chat just as things were getting out of hand. He hadn't spoken much since the cancellation news broke, but he was now prepared to talk in an open Instagram live session. Scrappy joined Rashida Kirk and even Mama D to publicly address the chaos, saying they forgot who made the show hot. While pacing in his backyard, we gave them real, we gave them pain, drama, love, heartbreak, all of it. And now, the LA had over 70,000 viewers by the time it ended. And fans flooded the comments with support, calling for a boycott of the new show and demanding that the original cast be given their own platform. At the same time, things behind the scenes became more chaotic, as it was revealed that one of the producers from the original Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was considering breaking their undiata, expose what they called a decade of financial manipulation. Mama D chimed in, shouting in the background, "I'm the Queen of the South, and they went and tried to erase me." I don't think so. They cared about ratings, and when someone stopped pulling numbers, they got pushed out, which added fuel to the fire. According to an anonymous post shared through a media outlet, they claimed that cast members were frequently abused about their pay contracts, had their personal stories edited in ways that damaged their reputations, and didn't care about us. Kirk and Rashida reportedly reached out to the producer and started talking about using the information in a documentary-style project. The idea was to tell the full story from the inside, uncensored and raw, and from the perspective of the very people who made hip-hop and love a cultural phenomenon, Yuan Dandi and Mensi. They were on board as well, and they started talking to legal teams to make sure they could proceed without breaking any contracts. Everyone knew it would be risky, but the potential reward of reclaiming their story was worth it. Mona #bring back the originals. Her team was frantically trying to repair the damage. They tried using cast interviews, flashy marketing, and teaser trailers to promote the new show, but it wasn't working. One trailer on YouTube received more dislikes than likes, and the comments were harsh. "Bring back Perk and Rashida. This ain't it, and we want the real stars, not these randoms." A recorded voice memo from a Real Roots team meeting in which a production employee was heard stating, "Perhaps we should have just stuck with the original crew," made Mona's situation even worse. The voice wasn't identified, but fans thought it was someone in a high position. The memo swiftly went viral and blogs jumped on it. At this point, it wasn't just about cast drama. It was about a full-blown production crisis, and the original cast was aware that Mona was losing control while all of this was going on. Kirk, the filmmakers loved the idea and thought that fans were ready for something new and authentic. To plans for a digital platform that would feature the original Love and Hip Hop cast, telling their truths, creating fresh content, and finally owning their image started to take shape. Rashida Yandandi and Men DCs met again, this time with a group of independent filmmakers. And they talked about creating their own platform, not just a documentary, but an ongoing series where they control the narrative. No scripts, no fake fights, just real stories. The news of Joseline Hernandez spread swiftly, and while some were apprehensive, others were excited. But they all agreed that they had been used and thrown away and deserved better. The fans were obsessed with this possible reunion show, and every social media comment, blog post, and tweet seemed to advance the cause. However, the tension reached a breaking point when Yan Dandy went live again, this time not to talk, but to demonstrate. In a dramatic moment, she pulled out a hard drive labeled Season 6 Raw Footage, held it up to the camera, and remarked, "They thought they owned our stories." She didn't go into detail, but the message was clear. Something big was about to happen. The internet went crazy as fans conjectured about what was on the hard drive. Unseen arguments, private conversations, proof of stage scenes, or mistreatment. The mystery only made the drama worse within hours, and celebrities started to weigh in. Cardi B, who started on Love and Hip Hop New York, even tweeted a cryptic message saying, "They don't want you to know we got the receipts. Okay, and when we drop this, you'll finally see what they never wanted you to know. Speaking up, Mona Scott knew she had to move quickly after that one tweet sent the story into overdrive. According to sources, she tried to set up a meeting with Kirk and Handy in private, offering them an executive producer position on the new show as a peace offering. But Kirk wasn't interested, telling one confident person, "Too little, too late. We aren't your pawns anymore." And that was that. Nothing would stop the original cast from pursuing their own agenda and now producing their independent, while Mona's real roots were struggling to find their footing. The originals were creating something that could actually change the game. Behind the scenes, however, Mona wasn't finished. She still had connections, lawyers, and power. The series started quietly, filmed pilot footage in Atlanta, conducted interviews, and captured real moments between the cast members. The energy was raw, unscripted, and emotional, and fans were hungry for it. Sneak peeks leaked online, and the response was overwhelming. A final surprise was on the horizon, one that not even Mona Scott saw coming: a betrayal from within her own camp by someone close to her, someone she trusted, who was about to flip the script entirely. When they did, it would send shockwaves through the entire industry and expose the one secret that could destroy everything Mona worked to protect. Word spread that she was considering taking legal action to stop the new show, citing non-disclosure agreements and intellectual property rights. But the cast wasn't worried because they had receipts, their own lawyers, and, most importantly, they had the people on their side. One person, Kevin, a former production assistant turned coordinator with access to meeting documents and internal communications that most people never saw for years, uploaded the heavily redacted image of a contract with Mona Scott's name and signature visible at the bottom. Kevin had been faithful to Mona for years, but now that everything was falling apart, he decided it was time to speak. Within minutes of posting the image, Kevin followed it up with a lengthy statement in which he described how Mama had manipulated not only Mona, but also the most explosive part of Kevin's revelation came near the end of his statement when he posted a voice memo, an actual recording from a closed-door meeting between Mona and her top producers. He included screenshots of emails where cast members were promised bonuses that never materialized and where producers were instructed to provoke drama by feeding false information to certain cast members just before scenes were filmed. He wrote, "I stayed silent for too long," adding, "I saw people get exploited, lied to, and thrown away like trash. They built this brand and got nothing in return." Heard said, "We'll find new ones once they stop trending. They're disposable and not stars." The backlash was swift and real. Roots was officially placed on hold after the network released a vague statement citing unforeseen production challenges. Sponsors completely pulled out of blogs, and mainstream media outlets began framing the entire Love and Hip Hop scene. The tone was cold and detached, and it was the final nail in the coffin for her already collapsing image. Fans were horrified, cast members were incensed, and Mona went completely silent. Empire is a warning about reality gone too far. While Mona's reputation as a pioneer of urban television was being destroyed in real time, the original cast continued. To move forward, Rashida Kirk, Yandandi, Mensi, Scrappy, and even Mama D gathered in Atlanta to announce their next move. They rented out a small studio and held a live press conference that was streamed across multiple platforms, while the rest stood behind her. Yandandi held a microphone. "We're not here to drag anyone," she said, adding, "We're here to take back our story. Focus on true stories from real people, beginning with their own. It would be called Truth Uncensored." The announcement was greeted with a resounding amount of support from celebrities, influencers, and the public. To reveal the hidden clause in the cast contracts that allowed the network to use their likeness indefinitely, even after they were fired. Many people were unaware that they had consented to this, and it sparked outrage. Lawyers intervened, class action lawsuits were discussed, and the network rushed to clean up the mess, but it was too late. The original cast wasn't just exposing the truth. They were setting a new standard, and people were watching other reality TV personalities started contacting them to ask how they could reclaim stories. This was the beginning of a quiet revolution, and it all stemmed from the fallout between Mona Scott and the people who made her empire possible. However, despite all of the progress, it was unclear how far Mona was willing to go to protect what was left of her brand. Reports surfaced that she was attempting to negotiate a tell-all book deal in an attempt to spin her version of events. Insiders claimed that she was already in talks with the ghostwriter and intended to portray herself as a misunderstood visionary who was just ahead of her time, but fans weren't buying it. The receipts were out, the damage was done. And the filming for We Made the Culture concluded with the cast getting together for a final scene. They weren't acting, and producers weren't telling them what to say. Instead, they were just actual people sitting in a circle discussing their experiences. "They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds," said Andy, looking around. When the cameras stopped rolling, nobody hurried to leave. Instead, they stayed and sobbed as the room grew silent, and they each started sharing their dreams. For the future, not only for themselves, but also for everyone who had ever been silenced by a system based on lies. Laughed. It was the type of unscripted moment that served as a reminder of the reasons they battled so hard to arrive. Having previously been made fun of by the Lanais, but now they were free and the story was finally theirs. And when the debut date was announced, fans noted their calendars that the business kept a careful eye on but kept out of the spotlight. Mona Scott sat quietly.